In 1985, Burnsville Center was Minnesota's glittering retail palace. 29,000 guests on opening day, escalators humming, and over 1 million square feet filled with ritual and promise. Today it stands nearly empty. Its 114-acre ambition reduced to echoing corridors and stalled redevelopment. Was it the Mall of America, the internet, or something deeper that hollowed out the state's largest mall? The real story, as you are about to see, is far more complicated. In the early 1970s, the southwest corner of Interstate 35W and County Road 42 was still open farmland, bordered by the Rimnack and Hanson family fields. But the landscape around Burnsville was changing fast. Between 1960 and 1965, the town's population jumped from fewer than 3,000 to over 10,000, driven by young families seeking space, new schools, and the promise of suburban life. The completion of Interstate 35W made what had been a rural outpost suddenly accessible, a direct link from Minneapolis, drawing commuters and developers alike. The land's value soared as the highway opened, and in May 1971, Sears, through its Homart Development subsidiary, and Powers Dry Goods quietly secured 114 acres for a project unlike anything southern Minnesota had seen. The idea was ambitious: a regional shopping center that would serve not just Burnsville, but all of Dakota County, southern Minnesota, and even northern Iowa. At the time, the nearest major department stores were across the river in Minneapolis or St. Paul, and the local Valley Ridge Center, built in 1963, offered only basic amenities: a grocery, a drugstore, a post office. Retailers saw untapped potential in the South Metro's swelling neighborhoods and the growing parade of cars passing daily along the interstate. The question was not if a mall would come, but how big and how soon. This was a matter of ambition as much as commerce. By June 1973, Homart publicly unveiled its blueprint, a 3-level climate-controlled shopping complex spanning 1.1 million square feet, with a projected cost of $30 million and space for up to 165 stores. The original name, Burnhaven, was quickly replaced by Burnsville Center, signaling a vision that reached beyond city limits. The scale was unprecedented for the region: 10,800 parking spaces, modern escalators, and accessible design features ahead of their time. The mall would anchor an entire new commercial district, reshaping farmland into a retail destination. Homart's planners, drawing on Sears' national experience, saw the site's potential as a crossroads, a place where the new suburban population, the highway, and the retail ambitions of the era could meet. They bet on the momentum of suburban growth, the lure of convenience, and the idea that a single place could become the heart of a new community. The project's size and scope reflected not only optimism, but a calculated response to shifting demographics and the changing rhythms of American life. Construction would begin the following spring, but the decision to transform those 114 acres was already reshaping Burnsville's future. The farmland was gone. In its place, a new kind of palace was about to rise. Spring 1974 brought the first signs of transformation. Bulldozers and concrete mixers began to replace rows of corn, as McCrory Construction broke ground on the 114-acre site. The promise of a shopping palace carried a price tag of $30 million, a staggering sum for the time. Every week, the shell of Burnsville Center grew taller, steel beams rising above the prairie grass. But beneath the optimism, pressure mounted. By late 1975, the economy was faltering. National headlines warned of recession and high interest rates. Leasing agents worked the phones, but only 95 of the 165 planned stores had signed on, 57%. Empty storefronts loomed in the blueprints, and some wondered if the mall would ever fill. Still, the vision pressed forward. Construction crews worked through cold and heat, pouring concrete for 3 levels, installing escalators, and carving out space for anchors: Dayton's, Sears, and Powers. The parking lot, designed for 10,800 cars, stretched across the former farmland. Inside, planners insisted on features that would set Burnsville Center apart: wide corridors, early accessibility ramps, and a food court that would soon host Orange Julius and Sparrow. Local officials toured the site in hard hats, watching as the region's largest retail project took shape, floor by floor. By midsummer 1977, anticipation swept through Burnsville and beyond. The mall's name, freshly changed from Burnhaven to Burnsville Center, appeared on banners and in newspaper ads. Stores hurried to finish displays. On August 3rd, 1977, the doors opened for the first time. Nearly 29,000 people poured in. Families, teenagers, shoppers from as far as northern Iowa. The parking lot overflowed. Inside, the sound of footsteps echoed off terrazzo floors. Pat Paulson cracked jokes from a makeshift stage. Miss USA Barbara Peterson and Miss Minnesota Debbie Cassette cut the ribbon alongside Mayor Pete Oxner and Home Art President William A. Toombs. For a moment, the worries of empty leases and economic downturn faded beneath the energy of a crowd that had never seen anything like it. Within 3 years, more than 100 stores filled the mall's corridors. The food court buzzed. A movie theater flickered to life. Burnsville Center had not only arrived, it had delivered on its promise. The risk had been real, but so was the reward, a new anchor for the suburbs and a gathering place for an entire region. Saturday afternoons in 1987 brought a particular rhythm to Burnsville Center. The parking lot, designed for nearly 11,000 cars, filled steadily as families arrived, children in tow, parents carrying jackets against the chill of the air conditioning. The automatic doors parted, and the first thing that greeted visitors was the hum of conversation, the scent of cinnamon from the pretzel stand, and the low, mechanical drone of escalators ferrying shoppers between 3 busy levels. Inside, the mall was a world unto itself, a network of more than 160 stores, each with its own lights, music, and promise. At the heart of it all, the Central Court's fountain sent water arching through the air, a favorite meeting spot and backdrop for countless photos. For some, it was just a landmark. For others, it became the setting for moments that would anchor their lives. One December evening, Michael waited here, ring box hidden in his pocket, watching the colored lights reflect off the water. The holiday crowd swirled around him, shoppers with Dayton's bags, children tugging parents toward the carousel. When his girlfriend arrived, the noise faded for a moment. He knelt, asked, and she said yes. Their laughter joined the chorus of voices echoing through the atrium. Nearby, Jennifer, 16, stood behind the counter at the Limited, folding sweaters with nervous precision. It was her first job, the Christmas season of 1988. She learned the register sequence of beeps, the cadence of small talk with strangers, the pride of a first paycheck. On her break, she would slip into the food court, where the choices felt endless. Orange Julius, Sparrow, a cup of fries from the potato stand. She watched friends from school pass by, some working at Walden Books or Claire's, others just wandering in packs, laughing too loudly, testing the boundaries of freedom that the mall allowed. For the Johnson family, Sunday afternoons belonged to ritual. They parked in the same row each week, entered through the Sears wing, and began their slow circuit. Their daughter, 6 years old, insisted on a ride on the carousel, clutching the painted horse's mane as the music played. Her parents strolled behind, coffee in hand, waving at neighbors and pausing to browse at B. Dalton or pick up shoes at Kinney. The mall was more than a collection of stores. It was the architecture of routine, a place where time unfolded in familiar loops. Every morning, before the shops opened, the corridors belonged to the mall walkers, mostly retirees, some alone, some in pairs. They moved with quiet determination, sneakers whispering against terrazzo. For them, Burnsville Center was a climate-controlled haven, a safe, well-lit space to keep bodies moving and friendships alive, especially through the long Minnesota winters. They nodded to security guards, kept mental tallies of laps, and watched as the first employees arrived to unlock gates and switch on lights. Teenagers claimed the afternoons and evenings. After school, they spilled in from buses, backpacks slung over one shoulder, drawn by the promise of arcade games, the latest cassette singles at Musicland, or the hope of spotting a crush in the food court. For many, the mall was the first taste of independence, a place to linger without parental supervision, to try on adulthood 1 hour at a time. Some found their first jobs behind the counters, learning to clock in and out, to manage the register, to handle the small dramas of retail life. Others simply wandered, drifting from Spencer Gifts to the arcade, collecting stories to trade at school the next day. The routines of daily life played out against a backdrop of constant motion. Escalators rose and fell, strollers wove between displays, the carousel spun in slow circles. On busy weekends, the soundscape was layered, distant laughter, the splash of the fountain, the soft chime of announcements over the PA system. Holidays brought extra sparkle, garlands strung between pillars, Santa's house set up near the main entrance, lines of children waiting with parents for a photo that would become part of the family archive. For those who worked here, the mall was both stage and backstage. Maintenance crews polished floors before dawn. Store managers tallied receipts after closing. Security staff walked their routes, learning the regulars by name. The food court's clatter signaled the lunch rush, with trays stacked high and tables claimed by teenagers, young couples, and grandparents alike. Each day carried its own small dramas: a lost child reunited with a parent, a surprise birthday party at the pizza place, a first date that might or might not become a story worth telling years later. Burnsville Center's true currency was not just in sales or foot traffic, but in the daily ceremonies it hosted. The 160-store ecosystem was a living map of social connection, where routines became rituals and strangers became familiar faces. The mall was a place where milestones unfolded in public: first jobs, first kisses, first paychecks, and sometimes first heartbreaks. These moments, repeated and shared, turned Burnsville Center from a shopping destination into the heart of a community. All of it, the carousel's music, the scent of new shoes, the steady pulse of escalators, became the background to lives in motion. The mall was not just a place to buy things, it was a place to belong, even if only for the span of a Saturday afternoon, or the length of a single perfect walk around the fountain. Hidden behind the carousel music and the constant flow of shoppers, a different kind of work defined Burnsville Center's best years. Facility managers unlocked doors before dawn, checked boilers and escalators, and walked the silent corridors while daylight crept across empty terrazzo. Their mornings began with lists: light bulbs to replace, tiles to polish, HVAC units to monitor. By the time the first mall walkers arrived, the building was already humming, every system tested, every entrance swept. The mall's smooth operation depended on a web of decisions made far from the food court. In 1983, ownership quietly changed hands. Homart, the original developer, sold Burnsville Center to Corporate Property Investors, a New York-based firm with a growing national portfolio. The shift brought new priorities, more focus on maximizing returns, and a layer of distance between the mall and the community it served. In 1984, management transferred again, this time to Pembroke. Each new owner studied the ledgers, weighed the risks, and debated how best to keep the mall's promise alive. Facility upgrades and capital improvements became the language of confidence. In 1989, a major renovation aimed to keep Burnsville Center competitive. Elevators were installed, replacing some of the original accessibility ramps. The food court, already a magnet for families and teenagers, was expanded and updated. New lighting brightened the corridors, and millions were spent behind the scenes updating electrical systems, modernizing security, and refreshing storefronts. These changes were not just about aesthetics. They were about signaling resilience and showing both tenants and shoppers that Burnsville Center was still evolving. Yet, beneath the surface, anxiety was growing. The original anchors, Sears, Dayton's, and Powers, had defined the mall's identity. Powers was sold to Donaldson's in 1985. 2 years later, Donaldson's locations, including Burnsville, were bought by Carson Perrier Scott in 1987. Each rebrand brought new signage and new managers, but also a sense of instability. Shoppers who once navigated by familiar names found themselves retracing their steps, adjusting to new faces and changing layouts. The mall's occupancy numbers remained strong through the late 1980s, more than 150 stores, with 66 original tenants still open 12 years after the grand opening. For those who managed leases and tenant relationships, the effort to fill every storefront was constant. Leasing agents tracked trends, negotiated rents, and watched national chains cycle through, some expanding, others retrenching, a few vanishing seemingly overnight. The mall's size, once its greatest asset, now demanded relentless attention. 1 million square feet to keep filled, cleaned, and maintained, even as the retail landscape shifted around it. Facility managers and corporate overseers worked in tandem, balancing budgets and expectations. Every repair order, every contract renewal, every marketing campaign was a negotiation between the mall's legacy and its future. Investment in infrastructure, like the 1989 elevator installation, was weighed against the risk of declining returns. Leadership monitored not just foot traffic, but also the subtle signals of change, which stores paid rent on time, which ones downsized their footprints, which national chains were rumored to be struggling elsewhere. By the end of the decade, the mall's public face remained bright. Shoppers still came for Saturday rituals, the food court still filled at lunchtime, and the carousel's music still echoed off the glass. But in boardrooms and back offices, the mood was less certain. Ownership changes and anchor rebrands had become routine, each one a reminder that Burnsville Center's success depended on decisions made far beyond Dakota County. The mall had weathered economic downturns and adapted its design, but its future would hinge on forces it could not fully control. For the teams who kept the escalators running and the lights on, the work was never finished. Every improvement was a wager on longevity. Every new owner brought hope and questions. In the years ahead, those questions would only grow louder as Burnsville Center faced challenges no renovation could solve. Mall of America's opening in August 1992 sent a shockwave through Burnsville's Center Management Suite. Overnight, the rules of retail in Minnesota changed. 15 miles to the north, a new giant offered more shops, more spectacle, and a gravitational pull that drew both shoppers and tenants away. For the Burnsville marketing team, the challenge was immediate and existential. They gathered in conference rooms lined with old promotional posters, past campaigns promising family fun, convenience, and community. Now they needed something sharper. The first response was to double down on identity. Burnsville Center could not match Mall of America's scale, but it could offer familiarity. The marketing staff worked overtime to craft slogans that spoke to the daily rhythms of suburban life. In 1995, a billboard appeared along County Road 42. The billboard read, "The mall that takes up very little of America." The line was cheeky, a wink at the competition, and for a moment it drew smiles and local press. The campaign played on the mall's manageable size. No theme park crowds, no endless corridors, just a place to shop, meet friends, and get in and out with ease. Behind the scenes, the team tracked foot traffic with new urgency. Early data showed a dip, but not a collapse. Loyal customers, especially dual-income families pressed for time, still valued convenience. Surveys found that 69% of shoppers preferred Burnsville Center for quick errands, avoiding the chaos up north. The marketing team leaned into this, launching in and out in under an hour promotions and weekday specials for lunch hour visitors. Community events multiplied. Blood drives, school concerts, and holiday markets filled the calendar, each one an effort to keep the mall in the public eye and on the family agenda. Store managers were enlisted as unofficial ambassadors, encouraged to greet regulars by name and offer small perks. The food court added kid-friendly menus and weekday deals. Even the mall walkers received custom t-shirts, a small nod to their quiet loyalty. Every detail, from the scent of fresh cinnamon rolls to the timing of seasonal displays, was calibrated to reinforce a sense of belonging that Mall of America could never replicate. Yet beneath the surface, anxiety simmered. The billboard campaign bought time, but it could not reverse the larger trends. National chains began to question their leases, and whispers of declining sales made their way into quarterly reports. The marketing team kept meeting and kept brainstorming, but each new idea felt a little less certain than the last. The sense of being outflanked by a mega mall, by changing habits, by forces beyond Dakota County, settled in. For now, Burnsville Center kept up the fight, but the pressure was mounting, and everyone knew it. Mall of America opened its doors on August 11, 1992, just 15 miles north of Burnsville Center. Its scale was unprecedented, 5.6 million square feet, more than 500 shops, an amusement park under glass, an aquarium, and parking for 13,000 cars. In its first year, 42 million people walked through its entrances, more than visited Disney World and the Grand Canyon combined. The numbers alone redrew the map of Minnesota retail. What had once been a constellation of regional malls was now a system with a single center of gravity. Burnsville Center, once the South Metro's retail anchor, found itself orbiting a new sun. National chains that had anchored Burnsville's corridors began calculating the cost of maintaining two stores within such close range. Some chose to consolidate north. Others negotiated harder, seeking rent breaks or more favorable terms, as their leverage was strengthened by the magnetic pull of Bloomington's megamall. Even for those who stayed, the shadow was impossible to ignore. Shoppers, too, reoriented their habits. The promise of hundreds of stores under one roof, coupled with theme park rides and celebrity events, turned routine errands into day trips. Busloads arrived from Iowa, Wisconsin, and the Dakotas. Families who once spent Saturday afternoons at Burnsville now planned outings to Mall of America, where a single escalator ride could lead from shopping to roller coasters. The regional draw that Burnsville Center had cultivated over a decade was eclipsed almost overnight. The effect was not just in foot traffic, but in perception. Where Burnsville Center had once been a destination, it now seemed merely convenient, smaller, quieter, easier to navigate, but no longer essential. Leasing agents felt it in the tone of negotiations. Store managers saw it in the week-over-week sales reports. By the mid-1990s, Burnsville's occupancy remained high, but the energy had shifted. The mall's marketing campaigns leaned into local loyalty, but the gravitational force of Mall of America was relentless. For Burnsville Center, the arrival of a mega mall just up the interstate was more than competition. It was a paradigm change that set in motion a slow, persistent strain on finances and identity. The numbers told the story: 15 miles, 42 million visitors, and a future suddenly altered. What had once seemed like a palace was now a satellite, its orbit growing more tenuous with every passing year. CBL and Associates entered Burnsville Center's story in 1998, purchasing the mall for $81 million. The deal brought a sense of renewal and fresh ambition, even as the retail world outside the mall's walls grew more unpredictable. With new ownership came a determination to keep Burnsville Center not just afloat, but thriving. Management spoke with confidence, pointing to a steady stream of shoppers and the mall's long record of high occupancy. A major facelift arrived in 2001. The renovation brought new carpeting throughout the concourses, brighter lighting, and a redesigned food court. Skylights were installed, bathing the upper level in natural light and giving the aging corridors a sense of openness. The carousel, a fixture for years, spun beside families and mall walkers. The upgrades were more than cosmetic. They were a statement that Burnsville Center was still invested in its future. Storefronts were refreshed, common areas modernized, and the mall's signature accessibility remained a point of pride. By 2006, the work seemed to pay off. Occupancy reached 99%, a figure that rivaled the mall's earliest days. Managers pointed to the full directory, the variety of tenants, and the steady hum of activity as proof that Burnsville Center had weathered the storm of the previous decade. One manager described the mall as a success for a long time, a sentiment echoed by many who relied on its daily rhythms. The numbers told a story of resilience: hundreds of jobs, a near-complete roster of stores, and corridors that still echoed with footsteps. Yet beneath the optimism, there were quiet reminders that the world was changing. Anchor stores cycled through new names, and the retail landscape beyond the parking lot continued to evolve. For now, though, Burnsville Center stood as a model of suburban stability, a familiar destination updated for a new era, holding fast to its promise of community and commerce. Sears closed its doors in September 2017, ending a 40-year run as Burnsville Center's anchor and leaving behind a hollow shell of 167,000 square feet. The loss sent a ripple through the mall's corridors, one less draw for shoppers, one more darkened wing. By the end of that year, the city declared the empty Sears space a fire hazard, a warning that seemed to echo through the rest of the building. Vacancies multiplied. Storefronts that once pulsed with holiday displays now sat shuttered, their signs fading under fluorescent lights. The next blow came in 2020. The pandemic swept through Minnesota, forcing retail closures and draining what little momentum remained. CBL and Associates, the mall's owner since 1998, fell behind on $64.5 million in loans. With revenue in freefall and tenants disappearing, the mall was pushed into foreclosure. At auction, the property sold for just $17 million, a fraction of its valuation of $137 million from a decade earlier. The buyer, Kohan Retail Investment Group, was known for acquiring struggling malls across the country, often holding them as is or subdividing them rather than pursuing ambitious redevelopment. Under Kohan's ownership, the mall entered a kind of holding pattern. By 2023, vacancy reached 65%. The escalators still ran, but few rode them. JCPenney and Dick's Sporting Goods kept their lights on, joined by a handful of smaller shops and a scattering of pop-up tenants. Former retail spaces found new, temporary purposes. A petting zoo in the Old Navy, a skate park in the former Gap, and brief bursts of activity for events like the Vietnamese Tet celebration. These interruptions drew attention, but they did not bring a return to what the mall once was. The site became a curiosity, featured in YouTube explorations, more famous for its emptiness than for its offerings. When asked about the future, the owner's words were blunt. Everything going little by little. Promises of a $30 million redevelopment, an Asian grocery, or a food hall surfaced, but the deadline slipped and the plans remained on paper. The reality was a vast, echoing space, caught between memory and abandonment, waiting for a new purpose that never seemed to arrive. Vacant malls now outnumber new ones across the U.S., a shift visible in Burnsville's silent halls. As suburbs rethink their centers, the loss of places like this exposes a deeper question. Where do communities gather when their third place disappears? The land waits, but the fabric that once connected neighbors unravels. What fills that void shapes not just our skylines, but how we live together now. Share your memories or thoughts below.